right, ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to learn how to draw this chameleon sitting on a branch. And then later we're going to add some color to it. We're going to work on doing this drawing. We're going to do it step by step, and we're going to go through it a couple of times to make sure that you've got it. So if the first time through you make any mistakes, I don't want you to worry too much. We're going to do it a few times. Let me set this one aside. So you have a piece of paper. I want you to turn it horizontal like this, not vertical. I want you to turn it this way. You've also got a pencil. And today I want you to hold your pencil really, really loosely in your hand. I don't want you to hold it really tight. And the reason for that is because I want you to draw really, really lightly, so that you can erase if you make any mistakes, and also so you can do some really light sketching, which will help you if you need to change where some of your lines are. Because if you're holding it really tightly and you really bear down on the paper, then if you need to erase, you can still see those lines if you've really pressed down, especially on this thicker paper. So do this for me. Hold your hand that you're not drawing with out, and I want you to take your pencil and really just tickle the back of your hand. Now that's as lightly as you should be drawing with your pencil, okay? Now if you're bearing down and you're hurting your hand, that is pressing down too hard. If you're pressing down that hard, you're also going to be hurting your paper, and you won't be able to easily erase that, okay? So make sure that you're just tickling your hand and also just tickling your paper. That's how lightly you should be drawing today, so that you can erase any mistakes you make. And again, we'll be doing this drawing a few times, so if you make a mistake this first time around, don't worry, we'll be doing it a few different times, okay? So the first thing I want you to do is think about where your chameleon is going to go. So let's look again at this example. Notice how he's kind of right in the center, and he's not huge. He's not going off the page. His tail isn't coming down off the bottom here. He's not over to one side. And we need room for his tongue. We want him to look like he's about to catch this dragonfly. We want room for some branches. So really think about your composition. So look at your blank paper and kind of think about where your chameleon's going to go. He's going to go right here, kind of in the center, but we also don't want him to be so tiny that he doesn't seem important anymore. We want him to be big enough that we know that he's the subject of our drawing. But we don't want him to be so big that we can't see all of him. So he's going to be kind of right here in the center. I want you to take your finger and kind of draw a circle with your finger to show about where he's going to go. Okay? Now the first thing we're going to do, right here in the center of our paper, there where we were drawing a circle with our finger, we're going to draw a C, like a capital C. And that's going to be the curve of our chameleon. So we're going to start about right here on our page. So if you start in the center, you come up and over just a little bit. That's about where I'm going to start. I'm going to make a capital C. And remember, you're going to draw lightly. Tickle your paper. I'm going to draw a little bit darker than you should. I'm going to bear down a little harder just so that you can see the lines that I'm making. But remember, I want you guys to draw really lightly so that you can change those lines. But I want you to make a capital C. Curve around. And you can stop about right there. And if you need to make some adjustments to this, you certainly can. And we're going to make some changes to it in just a minute. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do right here at the front, let's start by making our chameleon's head. So I'm going to do a straight line right here. And then I'm going to come up just a little bit and do a curve there. So I did sort of a candy cane shape. And then I'm going to make sort of a rounded triangle shape. So I'm going to come forward. And then instead of making a sharp angle like a normal triangle, I'm going to do a curved line and come down. And again, I'm going to curve up. So notice how that kind of looks like a triangle, except it's curved on all those edges. That's going to be our chameleon's face. Okay? Now let's go around to the other end of our C where we stopped here. We're going to continue it just a little bit. We're going to have his tail curve around into a coil. It doesn't have to go too far. Just have it coil around just a little bit further. Okay? All right, next, come right up here under his neck, down at the base of his head, and let's do the other side of his body. So I want you to start right here and curve around. Now his body's going to get thinner as he gets closer down to his tail. So right now it's nice and thick. And as it curves down, it starts to get a little bit thinner, not too thin. We still want him to have a nice wide body. But then down here, it's starting to get a little bit thinner. And then as it curves around on his tail, it's starting to get a lot smaller. And as it gets into that little curve, it's very tiny. All right, so there's our chameleon's body, the whole curve of it. Now again, you're drawing nice and light, so if you need to go back and do that line again, or if you need to change the curve of your C, you can do that. Maybe this top line needed to be a little bit different. Maybe my curve line needed to come out just a little bit more. I can certainly do that. And then you could erase this first line if your chameleon's body was too skinny to begin with. Okay? And again, we're going to practice this drawing a few times through, so don't worry if you've made a mistake on this one. All right, let's start to add a few details to this chameleon. The first thing I'm going to do on that body we just drew, let's make some curved lines, sort of like stripes, to make it look like he's got some texture to his body. But we're not going to make these lines completely straight because we want him to look like he's got some form. He's a little bit rounded. So I'm going to make some curved lines. Notice, see how my line curves just a little bit? And also my lines are going to follow the curve of his body. And if you need to turn your paper to keep following that curve, you certainly can. That might be very helpful. And we're going to go all the way around the curve of his tail. All right, now let's give him an eye so he can see the food that he's about to eat. Let's give him a nice big circle eye. Nice big circle. And then put a smaller circle right in the middle. And then give him a nice curved mouth. And then right there, in line with his mouth, let's give him a tongue that's sticking out. So starting there where we just did his tongue, let's do a curved line that comes out, up, and around. All right. All right, next let's give him some little texture on his back. Chameleons have sort of a fin or ridge on their back. So starting right here, right behind his head, I want you to do sort of a curved line that comes back, but then you're going to come in, and then back and in. So sort of a zigzag line. It's going to go all the way down, almost the whole length of his body. We're not going to go down the curve, around the curve of his tail. I'll show you where we're going to stop. And again, if you need to turn your paper to keep doing this zigzag, you can do that. And I'm going to stop right about here as the tail starts to curve around. So I'm just going to make that zigzag start to get smaller and smaller, and then I'm just going to stop right there. Okay? Let me turn this back around. Alright, so our chameleon's starting to look pretty good, but he looks a little funny without any legs. So let's give him some legs so he can stand on our branch that we're going to do in a minute. Alright, so about right here, you notice I've got these two sections right here. I've got this line here. So about in this second section, let's put our first leg. So I'm going to do a curved line that comes back and then forward. Okay? Notice how I did that? I came back and then forward. And then I'm going to scoot back. I'm going to make the same shape line. I'm going to scoot back just a little bit. And a curved line that goes back and then forward. So I did two parallel lines that curved back and forward. And then I'm going to give him 3 toes in the front and 1 kind of on the side. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And then come back just a little bit and give him a 4th one over here on the side so that he can grip that branch. Okay? And then I think maybe we only see a portion of his foot that's on the other side of him, okay? So we're just going to do sort of a curved line. Maybe we just see that 1 toe over there, because it's kind of behind his body. But we want to make sure it looks like he's standing on that foot back there. Okay? Alright, now come back a little bit, about right here. So that's our 1, 2, 3, 4th little segment of his body, about right here where his body's curving around. Let's do another foot. And we're going to do it exactly the same way. We're going to do a curved line that comes back and then forward. And then do another one, scoot back just a little bit, go back and then forward. And then give him some little toes. 1, 2, 3, and then 1 a little further back. Okay? And then we can only see a portion of his foot back over here, his 4th foot that's on the other side of his body. Maybe we can see that toe and a couple of his front toes. So we see a little bit of his foot there. And then just like we did on his body, let's do a few little curved lines to give his legs some texture and some form. Okay? Alright, so that is our chameleon. He is finished, but right now he is just hanging out there in space. So let's give him something to stand on. Let's put him on a branch. So he's going to be on a branch that's going to be diagonal, coming from this side of our paper up this way. So let's start down here. You can draw it with your finger first. Start down here, and we're going to come this way. So I want to start here. I'm going to skip over his body and come that way. And then the next part of my branch, I want it to be up here, because if it's below where his feet are, it's going to look like his feet are hanging out in space, and that would be funny. So I want this part of the branch to be kind of up here, so then it looks like it's behind his body, and then maybe it goes that way. Okay, so there's our branch. Let's put a few leaves on this branch before we do anything else. So maybe the branch that comes this way. Put a few twigs on it, a few leaves. They can come off the page. You can put in as many as you would like. And make sure you put the ribs of the leaves. And this will give us some nice green color when we add color to this. Maybe there's a branch down here. Again, it's up to you where you add these. I'm doing this quickly, but I want you guys to take your time, really work carefully. Maybe there's another branch right down here. I'm filling up all the empty space so that my composition looks really full. And the last thing I want to show you guys right up here, our chameleon has his tongue sticking out. We want him to look like he's catching something. So we're going to do a little firefly right up here that he's about to catch with his tongue. So the easiest way to do a firefly is we're going to do two very small circles that are kind of touching each other. So we're going to do this right next to his tongue because we want him to look like he's about to catch this firefly. So do two very small circles that are kind of touching each other. You see how small those circles are? And then we're going to do two lines that are coming down from those circles that get closer together. So almost like a very tiny ice cream cone. And then a firefly or a dragonfly has 4 wings that come out of their body, not out of the top of their head here, but out of their body. And they're kind of big wings, kind of narrow. And then they have a few lines in their wings just to give them a little texture. So you can do a few lines in here just to give them some interest. All right, and there is our drawing of a chameleon. We're going to do this drawing a few times, so I know it's going to get better and better each time we do it, so don't worry if you've made any mistakes. And then we're going to add some color to this a little bit later, and I can't wait to see the beautiful results.